Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to explore a story where a powerful man, trapped by a business marriage, finds true peace in a simple countryside meal. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next videos.
Some places make you feel powerful. Other places make you feel at peace. For Quan, the city had always been the first kind. Every morning, he woke up inside a world built from glass, steel, schedules, and pressure. The moment he opened his eyes, his phone was already waiting for him. Missed calls, unread messages, meeting reminders, documents that needed approval, problems that needed answers before he even had time to drink a glass of water. To other people, Quan looked like a man who had everything. He was young, capable, respected, and born into a family with influence. He wore expensive suits, walked into important rooms, and made decisions that could change the direction of an entire company. People looked at him and saw success, but success from the inside did not always feel like freedom. Sometimes it felt like a cage with better lighting. The city never truly gave Quan a moment to breathe. Everywhere he went, there was noise. The sound of traffic under the high-rise buildings, the cold ring of elevator doors opening and closing, the low voices inside conference rooms where every sentence carried another hidden calculation. In that world, even a smile could be part of a strategy. Even a dinner could become a negotiation. Even family conversations were no longer simple. And now, his family had brought business straight into the most personal part of his life: marriage. That afternoon, Quan sat in the living room of his family home. The room was spacious and elegant, decorated with expensive furniture, polished surfaces, and a silence that felt heavier than any argument. His parents sat across from him. On the table was a folder about a major business partnership. Next to it was a photo of Trinh. Quan did not need anyone to explain what it meant. His mother looked at him with a calm expression, but her voice carried pressure beneath every word. Quan, you understand the situation. If our family and Trin's family become connected through an engagement, the cooperation between both sides will be much stronger. Trinh is a good girl. She is educated, gentle, and suitable for you. You have known her since childhood. There is no reason to reject this. No reason. Quan looked at Trin's photo. She was beautiful. She came from a wealthy family. She knew how to behave in public, how to speak politely, how to fit into the world his parents valued so much. On paper, she was perfect, but love was not written on paper. To Quan, Trinh had always been like a younger sister, someone familiar, someone connected to his family, someone he respected, but never someone he wanted to marry. His father leaned forward, his face serious. This is not just about your personal feelings. You are the future of this family. You carry responsibility. A marriage like this can protect the company, protect our position, and open the door to greater opportunities. Quan listened quietly. He had heard words like responsibility and family duty for most of his life. They had followed him from childhood into adulthood, From school into business, from every small decision to every major turning point. He had accepted many things. He studied what his family wanted him to study. He entered the company when they expected him to. He worked until late at night, carried impossible pressure, and learned how to stay calm even when everything inside him was breaking. But now, they were asking for something different. They were not asking for his time. They were not asking for his effort. They were asking for his whole life. Quan finally spoke, his voice low but clear. "I only see Trinh as a younger sister." The room became cold. His mother's expression changed. His father's eyes sharpened. Quan continued, "I respect her, but I do not love her. I have never thought of her that way." His father let out a disappointed breath. Feelings can be built after marriage. What matters is that both families are suitable. Your status matches. Your interests match. Your future matches. Do not act immature. Immature. That word made Quan feel something bitter rise in his chest. He had spent years forcing himself to be mature. He had swallowed his own exhaustion, hidden his own pain, and carried responsibilities that no one else wanted to carry. Yet the moment he wanted to choose the person he would spend his life with, he became immature in their eyes. For the first time, Quan understood clearly. In that room, his heart did not matter. What mattered was the partnership, the benefits, the reputation, the commercial value of an engagement that looked beautiful from the outside. But Quan could not breathe in that kind of beauty. That night, he left the city. He did not argue anymore. He did not try to explain his feelings to people who had already decided not to hear them. He simply drove away, leaving behind the bright buildings, crowded streets, and suffocating air that had been pressing down on him all day. The farther he drove, the quieter everything became. The city lights slowly disappeared in the rearview mirror. The road opened into the countryside. There were fewer cars, fewer people, fewer sounds demanding his attention. On both sides of the road, fields stretched into the darkness. Small houses appeared under soft lights. Trees moved gently in the night wind. Quan lowered the window. The air outside was cool and clean. It carried the scent of grass, soil, and distant rain. Just one breath of it made his chest feel lighter. Whenever the city became too much, he always found himself returning to the farm. It was not a grand place. It had no luxury decorations, no expensive gate, no polished marble floor. It was simple and quiet, with vegetable beds, fruit trees, a small pond, and a dirt path leading toward the house. But to Quan, it was the only place where the world stopped demanding something from him. And more than anything, it was where Tieu Lac was. When he arrived, the porch light was still on. Tieu Lac was standing near the garden with a bamboo basket in her hand. Her clothes were simple, her hair tied back neatly, and there was still a little soil on the edge of her sleeve. She looked like she had been working in the garden not long before he came. She heard the car and turned around. The moment she saw Quan, she knew something was wrong. But she did not rush over with questions. She did not ask why he came back so late. She did not force him to talk about what had happened in the city. Tieu Lac was not the kind of person who comforted someone by making noise. She comforted people by giving them space. After looking at him for a moment, she only said softly, "You're back. Go wash your face first. I'll pick some vegetables and cook dinner." Just one simple sentence. But it almost broke through everything Quan had been holding in. In the city, people greeted him with problems. They asked him about contracts, reports, numbers, and decisions. They wanted him to solve things before they even noticed whether he was tired. But here, Tieu Lac did not ask him to be strong. She only gave him a place to rest. Quan nodded quietly. "Okay." Tieu Lac turned back to the garden. She moved between the vegetable beds with familiar ease, choosing fresh, bitter melons from the vine and picking a handful of green herbs. Then she went toward the small bamboo area behind the house, where she had already prepared young bamboo shoots earlier. In the kitchen, warm light filled the room. Tieu Lac washed the bitter melons carefully, cut them open, removed the seeds, and filled them with seasoned minced meat. Her hands moved gently but skillfully. She did not cook like someone trying to show off. She cooked like someone who knew that a warm meal could calm a tired heart. Next, she stir-fried the bamboo shoots with chili and garlic. Soon, the smell spread through the kitchen, spicy and familiar, carrying the simple comfort of countryside life. After that, she squeezed fresh lemons into a glass, added sugar, poured in cool water, and stirred until everything blended together. She added ice and placed the glass on the wooden table beside Quan's seat. When Quan came out after washing his face, dinner was ready. There was bamboo shoot with chili, stuffed bitter melon, fresh vegetables from the garden, a bowl of clear soup, and a cold glass of sweet lemon water. Nothing expensive, nothing fancy, but everything felt warm. Tieu Lac pulled out a chair for him. "Eat first," she said gently. "Hard things can wait until after dinner." Quan looked at the simple meal in front of him. All day, he had been surrounded by luxury, expensive tea, elegant rooms, polished tables, and perfectly chosen words, but none of it had made him feel cared for. This meal did, and in that quiet moment, sitting at an old wooden table in the countryside, Quan suddenly realized something. Maybe real happiness had never been in the city at all. Quan sat down at the wooden table, the heaviness of the city still pressing on his chest. The chair was old, the bowls were plain, and the meal had no expensive decoration. But this simple countryside dinner felt warmer than any luxury restaurant he had ever been to. He tasted the bamboo shoot with chili, then the stuffed bitter melon, and finally drank the sweet lemon water. The food was simple, but the warmth of it slowly eased the tightness in his chest. For the first time that day, Quan felt like he could breathe. Tieu Lac sat across from him quietly. She did not stare, did not rush him, and did not force him to explain what had happened. She simply stayed there under the soft kitchen light. This dinner asked nothing from him. It only waited for him at the end of a painful day, reminding him that he was still a person, not just an heir connected to a company. Tieu Lac noticed he had stopped eating. "Does it not taste good?" she asked softly. Quan shook his head. "It tastes good." After a moment he added, "Very good." Tieu Lac smiled a little. "Then eat more. You look like you have not eaten properly all day." Quan lowered his eyes. She was right. He had swallowed food between meetings and drunk tea in rooms where every sentence felt like another chain around him. Only now did he feel like someone had noticed his tiredness without asking him to prove it. After a while, Tieu Lac put down her chopsticks. "Did your family pressure you again?" Quan's hand paused. Her question was calm, without judgment. She was not forcing him to speak. She was only giving him a place to put down the burden. Quan exhaled quietly. "They want me to get engaged to Trinh." Tieu Lac's eyes moved slightly, but she did not interrupt. Quan continued, "It is for business. Her family can support the company, and my parents think an engagement will make the partnership stronger." He smiled bitterly. To them, everything is perfect. Her background, her status, the timing, the benefits. Everything matches. Tieu Lac looked at him for a few seconds. Then she asked, "Everything except your heart?" Quan became silent. That sentence struck him harder than he expected. His parents could calculate every advantage of the engagement. They could talk about profit and family status for hours, but when it came to his feelings, they treated them like something childish, something that could be pushed aside until it disappeared. "I told them I only see Trinh as a younger sister," Quan said, "and they did not accept it. They said feelings can grow after marriage." Tieu Lac was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Some things can grow after marriage. Habits, patience, the way two people learn to live together. But love cannot be forced like a business deal." Quan looked at her. Her voice was soft, but every word was firm. "If you marry someone only because everyone says it is useful, maybe your family will feel safe. Maybe the company will gain something. Maybe outsiders will call it a perfect match. But what happens after the celebration is over? What about the life you have to live?" Quan did not answer. Tieu Lac continued, "You have already given your family so much. Your time, your effort, your youth, and your responsibility. But Quan, being responsible does not mean giving away your whole life." The kitchen fell quiet. Outside, the night wind moved through the garden. That small kitchen felt like a quiet island, far away from the pressure of the city. Quan had heard many people advise him before. His father spoke with authority. His mother spoke with expectation. Business partners spoke with interest. But Tieu Lac spoke with sincerity, and that sincerity reached him deeper than any argument. Quan looked at her and asked, "What if refusing them makes everything worse?" Tieu Lac met his eyes. "Then face that trouble clearly, but do not create a lifetime of pain just to avoid a temporary storm." Quan's chest tightened. A temporary storm, a lifetime of pain. He had been so focused on what would happen if he refused that he almost forgot what would happen if he accepted. If he agreed, maybe his parents would be satisfied. Maybe the partnership would go smoothly. Maybe both families would look perfect in everyone's eyes. But after that, he would have to stand beside Trinh as her fiancée, smile through a relationship he did not want, and lie to Trinh, to his parents, and to himself. Slowly, he would lose the part of himself that still knew what peace felt like. And he would lose Tieu Lac, not because she would ask him to choose her. Tieu Lac had never demanded anything from him. She gave him warmth without conditions, care without calculation, and courage without forcing him. Quan looked at the old wooden table. This table had no business value. This kitchen could not protect the company. This meal would never appear in any report, but it was real. More real than the engagement they were forcing on him. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, the confusion in his gaze had changed. "I cannot marry Trinh," he said quietly. Tieu Lac looked at him. Quan repeated more firmly, "I cannot. I do not love her. I only see her as a younger sister. If I accept this engagement, it will be unfair to her, unfair to me, and unfair to the person I truly care about." Quan looked straight at her. "For a long time, I thought being responsible meant accepting every arrangement. I thought if I endured enough, everyone would be satisfied. But now I understand. Some compromises do not create peace. They only hide pain." His voice became steadier. "I will go back and refuse the engagement clearly." Tieu Lac's eyes turned a little red, but her expression remained calm. "Then do not say it in anger. Say it with respect. Say it clearly, but say it firmly enough that no one can pretend they did not understand." Quan nodded. "I will." For the first time that night, the weight on his shoulders seemed to lift. Nothing had been solved yet. His parents would still be angry. The partnership might become difficult. Trinh might feel hurt. But at least now, Quan knew what he had to do. And this time, the decision belonged to him. There was no grand confession, no dramatic promise, no beautiful music. But in that quiet countryside night, Quan understood something clearly. Happiness was simply coming home, exhausted, finding someone who did not demand an explanation, and hearing one honest sentence that gave him the courage to stop betraying himself. The next morning, Quan returned to the city. But this time, he was not running away. He was going back to face the storm. Standing before his parents, he said clearly, "I will not get engaged to Trinh." His father's voice turned cold. "Do you understand what you are saying?" Quan did not lower his eyes. "I understand. I respect Trinh, but I do not love her. I only see her as a younger sister. If I marry her for business, it will be unfair to both of us." "And what about the company?" Quan's answer was steady. "I will protect the company with my ability, not with a marriage I do not want." The room fell silent. For the first time, his parents saw that no amount of pressure could force him back. Quan knew the storm was not over, but deep in his heart, he was calm. Somewhere far from the city, there was a small farm, a warm kitchen, and a girl named Tieu Lac who had reminded him what truly mattered.
Quan lives in a suffocating city where business, family duty, and reputation control every part of his life. When his parents pressure him to get engaged to Trinh for commercial benefit, he refuses inside his heart, but feels trapped by responsibility. Exhausted, he escapes to the countryside farm, where Tieu Lac quietly understands his pain without forcing him to explain. Instead of questioning him, she harvests vegetables, cooks bamboo shoots with chili, stuffed bitter melon, fresh greens, and prepares sweet lemon water. During the simple meal, Quan realizes this humble care gives him more peace than any luxury in the city. Tieu Lac then encourages him to face his family honestly, reminding him that responsibility should not mean sacrificing his life. With new courage, Quan returns and rejects the arranged engagement, choosing sincerity over status and true love instead.